Hello and welcome to today's show. This is Yanni again, and it's a pleasure to have you with me. And I love being with you as always. Now, today we're going to talk about how do you handle a crisis. Now, this is not going to be an in-depth guide to how to handle a crisis, but I just felt I want to ask you, how do you handle a crisis? And I'm going to give you some examples of my own life and some other prominent people that we may learn from how to handle a crisis. Now, first of all, let's look at what a crisis is. Now, a crisis, according to the dictionary, is a time of intense difficulty, trouble, or danger. Now, when you and I hear about a crisis, we realize, but there's something serious that we really need to take notice of, and especially when something happens in your life. Say, for example, your sales just dry up in your business, or you've got a relationship and it seems as if the relationship all of a sudden, or even over a period of time, it just started crumbling and you don't know what to do. And now it really came to a crisis and you don't know what to do about that. Now, for myself, I think one of the first things that I've seen earlier on in my life, and I see it all around me, and I'm sure you will also be able to take note of this, that many times when a crisis hits and people are really taken aback and they don't know what to do, they sort of disappear from the scene. Sort of they draw back. You don't hear from them. You don't see them. They are hesitant to speak to you, and all kind of things like this, but just as if they're starting to build walls around them. Now, let's just look at why that is happening. Now, my point on, or my view on that is, it's because people feel kind of guilty. They don't feel good enough. They feel that they failed. But you know, they say that a failure is only a failure if you didn't learn from what happened there. So please remember that. So if something happens, whether it's a crisis or any other failure, then it's only really a problem or a crisis if you do not learn from that and move forward and not make the same mistake again. It's almost like that thing that they say, a donkey will not hit his head against the same rock twice. When it did it once, it'll know, I'm not going to do that again. So it's going to move away from that. And it's the same with you. When that thing sort of comes at us and it hits us, then learn from that. Just do a little bit of introspection and just go and sit and analyze the stuff and say, but what really happened here? What caused this? Is it something that I could have done different? Is it something that someone else did different? Did I maybe trust someone which I was not supposed to trust? Just analyze these things, learn from it, even document it, and then move forward. And you know, another important point here is also to take regular inventory of what's happening. Virtually on a daily basis, at the end of each day, just go and sit and look back and make notes of what happened today and what you can maybe change, what you can alter, so that tomorrow you can maybe avoid certain mistakes. And also that'll help you to keep on track with where you're going. And then, like, once a week, do more of an intense retrospection and analyze what happened during that week. And so if we do it that way, then it also helps us so that we can avoid some of these mistakes. Because sometimes if we just go on, we don't stop for a moment at the end of each day and just analyze what is happening during the day, tomorrow we might do exactly the same thing again. We might make the same mistake again, or speak to the same people again, or trust someone that I'm not supposed to trust. And so that's a very vital piece of information that you can use in your life. Now, let's just go on with sort of the definition of a crisis. It says in the dictionary also, it's a time when a difficult or important decision needs to be made. That's really sometimes when a crisis comes. Now you need to make important decisions critical decisions, and sometimes you have to make these decisions quick. You can't go and sit back and go and think about it for a week or a month. It's sometimes just not possible. Like I said, say for example, all of a sudden you realize, but there's now a problem. The sales dried up, or you had your sales just coming from one direction or from one source, and all of a sudden they say, listen, we cut our ties with you, and now you sit and you don't know what to do. But if you really know what was happening, and if you just were sort of cognizant of that, you cannot just have all your eggs in one basket. You really have to get multiple streams of income, for example, then this wouldn't happen. So if someone then cuts off their ties with you, then you can still move on. You know, I've heard several times when people would say, when, for example, when it's a non-profit organization, they would say that it's better for them to have multiple small donors. Let's just relate that to normal sales. It's maybe better to have consistent small sales. Let's call it small sales, or recurring income. If you have, for example, if you've got a subscription program, and get people to sign up for that. And the more people you have, let's just say it's maybe $10 or $20 or $30 a month, but it's on a consistent basis, and you've got 1,000 or 10,000 people, and that income comes to you on a regular basis. If 10 or 100 people, if they decide not to continue with anymore, it's not such a big thing. However, on the other hand, if you have, for example, donors that say give you $10,000 or $100,000 at a time, and you only reliant on these people, and if they stop their contributions, then you're in trouble. And the same with sales. You only have your sales in from one direction, and we may think, yes, you know, if I get $1,000 sales, $10,000 sales, and I get 3 or 4 of those in a week, it's great. But I have to keep on connecting with more people. But when you have this recurring income, then it ensures that you don't have these massive ups and downs. And that can also prevent crises in your life and in your business. And here's an example of this important decision that needs to be made. Example 1, when the crisis come, for example, she does not appear to have hesitated. And that's what you and I need to do. Like in this example, this lady hit it head on, and she really went for it. And she didn't step back and sort of cower from this situation that she needed to confront. And they needed to make decisions, and either whether she had to make direction changes or just continue with whatever she was doing. So that's one of the examples. The second example is a crisis point in history. Now, there might be something in politics, in world economy, or whatever. There might be a crisis point in history that takes place that sort of derails everything that you've been doing up to now. And if you and I don't have a crisis plan to know what to do in circumstances like these, like a contingency plan, then it can also bite us. So those are some of the important considerations that you and I need to take in our life, in our business in general. And then also, you know, relationships. It's very important to keep our relationships with a husband, with his wife, wife with her husband. It's very important to keep those relationships stimulated and fun and intimate. You know, you can't continue with someone in a close relationship, in a marriage relationship, for example, if you just speak to that person once a year. Now, this may sound silly, but that's sometimes, I think, how we treat it. We're so busy and we're so focused on certain things, and if we don't deal with those things, then it can end up really in a crisis. Let me just share this one example from you. I didn't encounter it myself, but I heard this example from someone else. This guy, he had certain goals in his business. He was a fairly young guy, and he wanted to accomplish these goals, and he was working very, very hard. And he didn't see his family too much. He didn't see his wife that much. And when he came home, it was late, and he was tired, and children might have already been in bed and so on. And then someone said to him one day, listen, my friend, what is going to happen if in 6 months' time your wife and your children are being taken hostage or they're being killed, and you know you only have 6 months' time to really get a close relationship for them? And these things that are your goals at this time, you're just putting your family aside and you're just pursuing these goals. And that really shook up this young man, and he started going and he was thinking. And you know what he did? He started his plans that he had for 6 months, and he really ramped that up. And within a month, he reached the goals that he initially set up for himself for 6 months. He reached it in a month. And he took his whole family. They took some time off, and they went on a vacation as a family for I don't know how long, but they really went on a vacation as a family that they haven't done for a long time. And that really strengthened their bonds, and it taught him a very valuable lesson. And the same to me. We sometimes want to put off and put off and put off, and our families, those relationships are vitally important for you and I. That's very important. And then another meaning is the turning point of a disease when an important change takes place, indicating either a recovery or a death. So that's a crisis. So when sickness or disease comes, that's also a crisis in our lives that sometimes we have to face, and it depends on how we face it. I had a situation in my life many years ago where I was diagnosed this disease in me, and it was denoting my colon, and they said I will never be able to travel again. I will never be able to live a comfortable or a normal life again. And you know what? I just decided, no ways, that is not how I will look at this. And as you know, all my principles are based on biblical principles. So I went to God and I said, Lord, what is going on? And you know what? God healed me. And never did I ever have to refrain from traveling. And Judy, my wife, and I, we've been to so many countries. We've been all across the world. And never did those things that someone placed on me, never did those things impact my life. And I'm very grateful for that. But you also have that authority, that power to take decisions like that. Take it to God and say, no, Lord, this is not what you have for me. You have granted me solutions for this. You have, Jesus died for me so that I can have health and fullness and power and authority, and that I can live a blessed life, and then also live for other people as well. That's very important. Now, I'm going to give you an example of someone who's really a mentor to me. There's not too much information about him out there, but his name is Peter J. Daniels. He's an Australian businessman. He's in his 90s now. So, but he once, I listened to him, and he said that he went bankrupt 3 times in his life. And when someone asked him, they said, Mr. Daniels, so what did you do when you went bankrupt? He looked at them almost with a kind of a puzzled look on his face, and he said, what do you mean? What did I do? He said, the next day I was on the street again, and I was promoting and selling my products. And that's how he viewed it. And he became, through lots of difficulties and hard work, but he became a billionaire Christian businessman. He lives in Australia now, and his family has got a very strong family business. So his family has taken over the business from him, and he's still a little bit involved in the business as well. But his children and his grandchildren is really taken on the roles that he sort of helped them to fill. So that's a very interesting story. So don't sit back and just disappear in the shadows. And another good example is also Donald J. Trump. Many years ago, he went, I won't say he went bankrupt, but he was millions of dollars in debt. And what I've read about him is that he never sort of pulled back and went into obscurity. He continued meeting with people and building relationships all the time. And although it was a very difficult time for him, but it's those relationships and it's those relationships that he kept up that really eventually pulled him through. And that's a very good lesson for you and I. And so it's very important for you and I to stay connected and don't step back and don't think, oh, but I'm failed. All these things, just like I said in the beginning, you only a failure, or you only failed. Let me rather put it that way. You only failed when you don't learn from your mistakes that you made. Each one of these people, they made mistakes, they lost a lot of money, and the businesses failed. But you know what they did? They stepped up and they just continued. And that's really what I encourage you to do. That's what I learned to do in my life. So when obstacles come, when it seems as if no money is coming in, whatever the circumstances may be, just don't step back and just retreat back into the shadows and go and sit and sulk and feel sorry for yourself. It does not help. It just doesn't help. And especially if you have a family that you need to look after or people that are reliant on you, even if you have a business, those people that are working for you, they're looking up to you. And if you just step back and say, sorry, but if you move forward and you make the right decisions, really go and see what went wrong and how you can change that, you can continue and you can build even bigger and better. So I trust that you found something in today's message, how to handle crises. And I trust that this will help you in your day-to-day walk, in your business, in your relationships, in decisions that you need to make. Thank you for listening to me. I appreciate you, and I'm looking to chat with you in the next show. Have an awesome day.